Welcome to this presentation on the functional non-local interpretation of the Unified Electromagnetic Consciousness Hypothesis, or UEMC, a method proposed for the first time in the world by Dr. Mohammad Ojarudi. Here in the abstract, the hypothesis is introduced: consciousness is not simply produced by neurons firing, but emerges from structured electromagnetic fields generated by neural activity. Earlier electromagnetic theories, such as those of Susan Pocket and John Joe McFadden, offered conceptual foundations, but none provided a full physical mathematical mechanism. What makes Ojarudi's proposal truly novel is the combination of elements that have never before been unified. Biophoton emissions at the quantum level. Action potential electromagnetic fields. CSF-induced reflective boundaries. Dynamic interference patterns. And self-updating electromagnetic hotspots. Together, these create a physically grounded, mechanistic explanation for how consciousness could arise as a real-time EM interference field. This opening slide sets the stage. Consciousness is not only encoded in neurons, it is encoded in the interference geometry of the electromagnetic fields they generate. Slide 2 lists the electromagnetic sources that seed interference inside the brain. We see biophoton emissions, quantum-level light pulses generated inside neurons, and the oscillatory EM fields of action potentials. The slide also highlights local field potentials and traveling waves across cortical tissue. What's new in Ojarudi's interpretation is the unified treatment of all these sources as contributors to a single EM environment. Earlier theories mentioned individual components, but never connected them into a coherent multiscale EM ecosystem. This slide introduces the raw materials for UEMC, a continuous stream of inward-moving electromagnetic waves that overlap, interact, and begin forming the interference structures that, within this new framework, are hypothesized to embody the foundations of consciousness. This slide presents a breakthrough idea. The cerebrospinal fluid acts as a reflective electromagnetic boundary, shaping the formation of standing resonance fields inside the skull. This is one of Ojarudi's most original contributions, treating the CSF not merely as biological fluid, but as an active EM boundary condition. When neural EM waves reach the CSF, they do not vanish, they reflect inward, causing multiple layers of interference and resonance. This transforms the brain into a kind of electromagnetic cavity, where waves bounce, reinforce, and build up structured patterns. No previous consciousness model has formally used CSF reflection as a mechanism for global EM pattern formation. This slide reveals why electromagnetic activity in the brain doesn't just dissipate, it organizes itself. Slide 4 deepens the argument by showing how these reflected and overlapping waves form interference patterns. We see examples. A source enclosed by a conductive boundary. B. The interaction of multiple EM regions. C. And the soap bubble diffraction analogy. The novelty of the UEMC proposal is the claim that these interference patterns are not passive side effects, they are distributed information fields, shaping how the brain represents unified conscious content. This is the first electromagnetic theory to explicitly propose that the geometry of interference constitutes the brain's integrative information architecture. Where neurons fire locally, the EM interference pattern integrates globally, solving the binding problem in a physically grounded way. This slide explores one of the most innovative ideas in the entire proposal: hotspots. When interference becomes constructive, wave amplitudes intensify and form high-energy nodes. These EM hotspots can push nearby neurons past firing threshold. Their activation produces new EM fields, which reshape the interference pattern. This creates the first fully described bidirectional feedback loop in any electromagnetic theory of consciousness. Interference hotspot neuron fires new EM field updated interference. This mechanism is entirely new. No previous theory, Pocket, McFadden, Penrose Hameroff included, has presented a self-updating EM feedback cycle driven by constructive interference inside a CSF-bounded cavity. This slide reveals the living, dynamic, self-organizing heart of the UEMC model. Slide 6 extends the mechanism into a theory of time perception itself. We see the evolution of an interference pattern at A. Time t. B. A perturbation when a new neuron fires. C, and the resulting new total pattern. Ogerudi's insight here is profound. Consciousness is not just a spatial EM pattern, it is a temporal wave evolution system. Each reconfiguration of the interference pattern corresponds to a new moment of subjective experience. This is the first theory to propose that conscious time emerges from the transition between EM interference states. Instead of the brain merely recording time, the EM field creates the flow of time through pattern evolution. The final structured slide summarizes the model's direction. Here the novelty becomes clear. UEMC is the first complete electromagnetic framework that unifies biophoton physics, classical EM waves, CSF boundary dynamics, constructive interference, hotspot-triggered neural firing, and feedback loops, all integrated into a single hypothesis about conscious experience. Future work involves simulation, mathematical modeling, and experimental testing of predictions. But already, the conceptual architecture is unique. No previously published theory has combined these elements into a functional, non-local field interpretation of consciousness. This slide concludes the core scientific content of the presentation. The rest slides contain the full text of his paper, and this final slide lists the complete reference set grounding the theory. These include works on electromagnetic field propagation, consciousness theories, MEG/EEG physics, quantum biophoton studies, traveling waves, CSF dynamics, metamaterials, and nonlinear neural oscillators.